Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Are your hairstyles male centered? I noticed that for a lot of women who wear weaves, wigs, and extensions, there is this obsession with making their wig appear real. But women can tell when you're wearing a wig, so who are you trying to make your wig appear real for? It's for the male gaze in most cases. By the way, I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone, but I have noticed this. A lot of times, women, when they wear extensions, part of the reason why they want it to blend so much or be so flat on their head, and a lot of women who are willing to risk ripping out their entire edges and ripping out their real hair so they can attain these hairstyles, oftentimes this is because of the male gaze. And there is nothing wrong with being attracted to a guy, or, maybe you want to catch a guy's eye, you're interested in him or something. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do think that sometimes when a woman feels like she has no power in life and has no power in society, or when she feels like she has failed in every other area of her life, I do feel like sometimes women try to use beauty as an escape. So they feel like, hey, I'm poor, I have nothing going for myself, I have no sense of purpose. I basically am depressed and anxious or whatever, but at least I can get a man's attention. And I think that that is where a lot of women mess up. Also, have you ever noticed how even the hair textures that a lot of women wear when it comes to wigs, weaves, and extensions, they tend to sometimes go for the hair textures that they think are popular with men. So, basing your hair texture off Hollywood and porn, aka the male gaze, I've noticed that on a subconscious level, a lot of women don't realize that the hair textures they're wearing it so they can get attention from men. Now, I will say that if you naturally have those hair textures, that's different. Like for me, when I wear extensions, I match the extensions to my hair texture. So if my hair texture happens to line up with the male gaze, I would say that that's different. But if your hair texture does not line up with the male gaze, aka tends to be maybe a type 4C or something where it's like you don't see it in Hollywood and porn, is it possible that women who have these hair textures and they're gluing down wigs to the point where they're ripping out their natural hair so they can make the type 3 hair on their head look more real, is it possible that some of these women are doing it with the male gaze in mind, or they're doing it because they believe that they will attain more power if they have the male gaze? I'm not saying that you do not have social power with the male gaze, because you do. I've talked about this on this channel before, how beauty is social power, but because I also talk about decentering men, I want women to have other types of social power besides just their beauty. And this is why you see me talking about things like social climbing, privilege stacking. You will see me talking about getting an education or, moving to a neighborhood that fits your future goals and dreams. Because if all you have is the male gaze and you don't have anything else like education or some sense of purpose or whatever, then yes, that does open you up to be taken advantage of by men. Because now men get to dangle a certain lifestyle in front of you. They get to dangle that in front of you like a carrot. They get to dangle money in front of you like a carrot because maybe you don't have the ability to make your own money, or maybe you do not believe in yourself and you don't believe that you can achieve your dreams without a man. This is why sometimes I will give a little bit of smoke to people who promote the soft life, because why does the soft life have to be male centered? Why is it you can only have the soft life if a man picks you and you can't have the soft life by yourself? You can't give yourself the soft life. Why is the soft life only defined by your relationship status? That is implying that your life is softer if a man picks you, and then if that man divorces you, cheats on you, etc., or he abandons you, now your life is suddenly hard. But back to the hair texture thing. I noticed that a part of the reason why women are obsessed with blending their extensions or blending their wigs and stuff is because of the male gaze. They're not doing it for women. A lot of times because women can already tell that it's a wig anyway. And plus, they tend to do this whole hairstyling thing so that a guy will think that they are naturally prettier than they are in their own minds, because maybe they view that hair texture as prettier than theirs. There's nothing wrong with that. I do not shame people for their beauty standards on this channel. And I don't shame people who feel like their personal beauty standard is different than how they look. So I am pro plastic surgery. I'm pro beauty enhancements. There's nothing wrong with having a standard for yourself and then trying to attain that standard. But my question is, what happens if the guy, if he finds out that your wig or whatever is fake, and then he says, oh, your natural hair is ugly? Well, now you're probably going to feel insulted and you're going to feel sad about that, because part of your self-esteem was based on what that man thought of your hair. And by the way, if a guy ever told me that, I would just dump his ass. But that's also a part of why I tend to wear hair extensions that match my natural hair texture. But another thing that I've noticed when it comes to hair extensions is a lot of women, they are obsessed with their hair being all one texture. So I remember one time I was wearing a half wig, and so my hair was out in the front and on the sides, and then the back of it was a half wig. So my hair in the front was just barely, it was just a little bit curlier than the half wig. So the half wig was maybe about a texture 2C, and with the way that I styled my natural hair, like my natural curls, it looked like maybe a 3A, something like that. So as far as my bang, it was a little bit curlier, but not noticeable, not at all. But I remember one of my friends made a comment saying, "Oh, you don't want to have two different textures if you're wearing extensions." And I understand if you have 4C hair and then you put a completely straight piece of hair on your head, yeah, that's very extreme. But something as simple as you have a slightly tighter curl on the front of your head, I don't see that as a big deal because my natural hair doesn't have all one texture uniform. So, where is this standard of perfection coming from? Like when my friend made that comment, that's what I was thinking. Where is this perfection standard coming from? Oh, every single piece of hair on your head needs to be the exact same texture. It needs to all be 2C. It has to all be this. You can't have 2C and then a little bit of 3A. It's like if my hair naturally has different shapes of curls, why can't I still represent that same look when I'm wearing a half wig? And also, if a man ever had the audacity to try to nitpick and say, oh, your bang is just a little bit curlier than the rest of your hair, you know, your bang is a 3A and then the back of your head is a 2C. First of all, that is sus, so that it's giving zest. I've never even heard of a man even being able to name the different hair textures, 2A, 3A, 3C. I've never even heard of that, first of all. And then secondly, even if you are doing something like this for the male gaze, I would assume that men are not picking you based on, oh, her bang needs to have, it needs to be just as loose as the back of her half wig. No. But I've noticed that some women who are so extremely male centered, they have an obsession with perfection. And perfection doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a perfect, perfect hair or perfect anything. Everybody has a different opinion on what they think is perfect. So for me, if my bang is just slightly curlier than my half wig, that's fine because my natural hair does that. When I cut my hair in layers, the shorter pieces of my hair can sometimes be a little bit curlier because maybe the weight of my hair is not as heavy or, so it's normal to me. But another thing I've noticed is a lot of women are obsessed with getting rid of frizz. So in my opinion, this can be quite male-centered because the only women I can think of who never have one hair of frizz on their heads are usually women who are in Hollywood and porn, aka the male gaze. But guess what? My hair sometimes can get a little bit of frizz. I can sometimes have flyaways or whatever, and especially if it's hot or if it's humid or if it's raining. So I personally, I don't care quite as much, like, oh, I can't have any frizz whatsoever. But I have noticed that sometimes if you are very male-centered, then you start becoming obsessed with these very tiny things that like most men, honestly, are probably not going to even notice that anyway. I'm pretty sure that if a woman looks gorgeous, let's say you're like Beyonce or Halle Berry or something, I'm pretty sure that a guy's not going to say, oh, nope, Halle Berry, you have one strand of frizz on the left side of your head, so no, I can't talk to you. But I've noticed sometimes women, the more male-centered we become, the more we begin to obsess and have these standards of perfection for ourselves, whatever that means to us. I also remember when this lady in my office, she was a black identified lady, she basically kept making comments about when I would wear wigs. So you guys know that in the office, I have worn different wigs every single day because I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to convince men that, oh, my hair is real and natural and whatever. No, if I want to have blonde hair today and black hair tomorrow and then silver hair the next day, I'm going to have that. So if a guy doesn't like it, who cares? I'm not choosing my hairstyle based on whether it's going to make a guy pick me or not. But I noticed that this one lady, she would always try to make comments like, she would say that, oh, I want to brush your hair, trying to imply that it was like nappy looking or that it was like, it wasn't perfectly smooth in her mind. So I remember one day she kept antagonizing me so much about my hair not being brushed to the point where I actually went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror and my hair looked fine. I mean, the wig looked fine. It was not perfectly like, Hollywood, every single hair is perfectly in place. Yes, there were one or two flyaways on it, but it wasn't anything abnormal that I would be embarrassed of. It wasn't like I had an entire rat's nest on the back of my head or something. It just had maybe one to two small strands. You know how you can put that pomade on your hair to kind of slick it down if it's a wig? I could have just used some of that if I wanted to, but I didn't have any that day. And plus, I was genuinely not wearing that wig for the male gaze because in that office, it's very secluded, like nobody even really works over there. It could be a whole day could go by and literally two people may walk by. So, first of all, I wasn't even doing it for the male gaze or to be seen. I was literally doing it to have fun and just to express myself and be creative and have a different hair color. And also, I've noticed that sometimes women who are more male centered, they try to project their male centeredness onto you. Like I remember one time, I even had a family member say, "Oh no, I have to make sure that my wig that it blends perfectly and I have to like glue it down on the edges and stuff." And for me, when I wear wigs, I mean, I prefer leave out when I'm wearing extensions. I prefer to do maybe like a partial sew in or maybe clip ins or half wig or something where my hair is out in the front because I just feel like that looks cute on me. And I also like being able to frame my face exactly how I want to, as opposed to having to glue something on my forehead and all that. But I remember one time there was a lady talking about how she has to glue her wigs down perfectly and how she basically she doesn't want to have any gray hairs showing on the sides or anything like that, and how she's willing to spend a lot of time just making sure that it's perfect, and that's fine. And I remember being like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I will just wear like some clip-ins or a synthetic half wig or whatever, and like it's fine." And then I remember her saying that she can't wear stuff like that. And she literally said, I'm not kidding. She was like, because what if you're trying to get a new boo and the guy is like, "Oh, wait, your hair isn't real?" So my thing is, I've noticed that a lot of women are obsessed with every part of them being real, and I do think that sometimes that can be a male-centered talking point. If that is your actual beauty standard for yourself, that's fine. But I have noticed sometimes, especially if women date black men, because black men pedestalize real hair, long natural hair and all this other stuff. So I've noticed that some women who date black men or they are male centered when it comes to the black male gaze, they try to make their hair look real. But I guess my thing is, even if that guy picks you and you start dating and you get married, he's eventually going to know that it's a wig. Like, what are you going to do? Just wear a wig for the next 80 years? So why would I stress myself out trying to kind of lie or hide the fact that I'm wearing extensions? I would hope that any man who truly loves me would love me for who I am on the inside, not, oh, he loves me because my hair is natural and real. That can be one of the things that he loves about me, but I don't feel like it's really worth it to spend a lifetime trying to keep up this fantasy illusion all for the male gaze. So I have noticed that a lot of women, their hairstyles are very male centered because they are trying to keep up a fantasy for the male gaze. And some women will even go as far as lying about it being real or whatever, or, obsessing about, oh, this part of my curl, it doesn't look as good as the other curl. Some women overvalue a man's love. They think that, oh, if a man picks me or if he marries me or whatever, suddenly I'm going to live the soft life. Suddenly I never have to work another day in my life. Suddenly I will be his dream girl. I can't stand that talking point. Oh, well, if you were his dream girl, he wouldn't have cheated on you. If you were his dream girl, he wouldn't have treated you like that. That's not true at all. Because, number one, I'm actually convinced that guys do not have a dream girl. No matter how beautiful or talented you are, that's not going to make him into a faithful person or a good person. It's not going to make him suddenly have morals and standards. Your beauty cannot control a man. And by telling women, oh, you just need to be his dream girl and then you'll be treated right, that actually turns women into pick-me's even more. And it makes women feel like we have to jump through even more hoops, like we have to try to act more feminine, whatever that means to you. It's basically victim blaming. Oh, if you were his dream girl, you wouldn't have been cheated on. If you were his dream girl, then he wouldn't have abused you. If you were his dream girl, then nothing bad would have happened because you're his dream girl. So it's promoting this talking point that if only you were to be perfect enough for him, then suddenly you will have a good relationship. So then this convinces young women that the way they're treated is completely determined upon whether a man views her as his dream girl. And then men get to use this as leverage over the woman. And they get to say, what do you bring to the table? Well, you're a 6 out of 10. You're not my dream girl. So it's basically lowering the woman's self esteem and it's making the woman even more male centered. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comments section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.